because it's sort of like I've been in those kinds of situations. But then again, sort of like when you're not here, it's like I really, really want you here again.
Mm.
But I mean, I hope you enjoyed your time here between
Yeah.
Friday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Good, that's good. Yeah, because like sometimes I can be a bit boring or a bit, weird.
I think
And
everybody's a
I
bit
think
weird
that
sometimes.
sorry.
Everybody's a bit weird sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm more or less comfortable sort of being myself around you, but that's something that takes quite a while to sort of like to do. I'm very sort of comfortable sort of around talking to him because like I've known him for a good 10 years or something,
Yeah.
and I suppose it's sort of like you're probably the same with because you and him have known each other for so long. It's sort of like there's nothing to hide anymore.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Insofar as insofar as you and I, it's sort of like I guess sometimes it sort of feels as though there's still a lot more that I can share with you, even though sort of like which will take sort of like it'll take a little while sort of for it to sort of come out. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't trust you. It's just more like yeah, it just takes
We
a while.
haven't had the time to basically say everything. And
Yes.
personally, I'm still learning stuff about myself. Like, probably at least
Oh,
once a week, I learn something new about myself usually.
what was something you learned about? What was something you learned this week?
Uh,
Well, you said at least once a week, so that
well,
sounds like an average.
yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned recently was when you mentioned how one of the things that I really want to hear is my mom say that she loves me.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing. Like, I didn't even know it myself, but I felt the emotional response.
Like a really big, like you just wanted to say that she's proud of you, sort of thing.
well, not just that she's proud of me. Like, she said stuff like that sort of in the past, but she's never actually said that she loves me.
Hmm.
I don't think, at least not in memory.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
Is that
did feel
because
that
of?
I did feel the tears actually start when you said that.
Is
Like,
that because of? Is that because of like it's just the dynamic between you two? Like, because I know sort of in our families, like in my family, the concept of sort of like professing what like our love to each other is sort of implied. It's more the sort of like an assumed sense of solidarity, sort of that where sort of like we run into sort of like ups and downs all the time, but we don't actually need to say how we feel about one another because it's just there.
well, I don't know
Insofar
if she
as
thinks it's implied. I think she said it. I think I've heard her say it to Yindi. Maybe.
yeah,
She definitely said it to Dad. Dad said it to me. Yindi said it to me.
yeah,
Eagle and I sort
say it
of
to each other all the time.
say it to each other in our own way. The cat, although the cat doesn't talk much at
You,
all for a cat.
you,
Like, I've listened out for her. She's said maybe
yeah.
5 things. um,
I mean,
but she
she
says
did
it
say that one thing to me
yeah,
once.
she says it non-verbally,
Yeah,
basically. Like, you're my friend, I care about you, you're an important person. Even in just the way she reacts to me compared to some other people. It's like
yeah,
I wake her up and it's just, oh, there you are. And she's like, oh, you just wanted to know where I am. And she doesn't seem pissed off. She's just kind of like, okay, I can go back to sleep. Nice to see you. Good night.
Oh,
Whereas, like, some other people, she'll, like, glare at you for waking her up.
yeah,
So it's, like, just that difference of response.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Because
I feel like it would be a little bit more of a glare if I wanted her to come down and talk to me or do something with me. It's like, I'm sleeping right now. Can we not? But at the same time, it's
yeah,
like I just woke her up because I wasn't sure if she was in that box or not. Tapping on the boxes above my head. And she's just like, oh, you just woke me up to see where I am? Okay, that's fine. I can go back to sleep.
yeah. She's like, where is everybody? Where is everybody? Just like, here I am, and she's like, oh, okay, there you are.
Yeah, as she does with it, as she does with us. In a way, I guess she was probably thinking the same thing. Like, I look for people all the time, so yeah, sometimes you'll look for me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like maybe you were feeling a little bit lonely and you felt that you needed my
My
presence specifically.
yes, yes. Cats tend to sort of have that kind of vibe to them quite a lot.
You have seen me look at you and acknowledge your existence by looking straight
Y-
at you.
it's
You
almost like
should
the
be
sort of
okay
like
now.
it's almost as though the sense of superiority just heightens once sort of the second sort of like you request their presence. Well, sometimes they'll just be like, no, 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 I have nothing. I want no association with this. Whatever it is you're asking of me, I can't provide it right now.
Yeah. Well, with her when she's looking for people, although I usually will say a hello and give her a stroke as well, usually she's just looking to see someone. She doesn't need them to do anything other than look at her.
Yeah, basically sort of just acknowledge the fact that she exists.
And she's like, okay, it's good. There are people around and they can see me.
Yes.
Although she is
With
the only cat that I have known to stand in the middle of the yard or wherever they happen to be and just give this mournful meow because they want to see somebody.
we had my mum's partner, David, Bryso, I call him. He had this cat called Bessie, and Bessie sort of was absolute mad cat, like mad cat. She was violent, like she was like really vicious cat, and the place where he got her from, the rescue place where he got her from, was planning to put her down. Because they're basically saying, look, nobody was wanted her. Every time somebody's taken her, they bring her back. And they basically said, look, if you bring her back, we'll understand. He's like, no, I'm not bringing her back. And essentially, sort of, we realized quite early on in the picture that she was abused in her younger days.
Mm.
And the reason why she was so mean to people or everything was because she was essentially taking out her anger on the world, on everything around her.
Mm.
But as she got older, and as she sort of started to learn that the situation she was in was quite a bit better, she became sort of like quite a bit happier, sort of like about life, which was nice. But essentially, sort of like when, oh man, she grew sort of like such a deep love for Bryso. This is like the first couple times is sort of where she stayed over at Mum's place when Bryso had to go up to Sydney for something, because she hated traveling. She hated traveling something fierce. And Mum took as soon as Bryce left, like sort of for the next few days, she was just walking up and down the hallways, going to the front door and just giving this super mournful meow. And of course, we knew that that she was calling for Bryce. But then we started to like cozy up to her and then get her to understand the situation that she was in wasn't bad either.
Yeah.
So when she would attack us, we wouldn't actually punish her for it to be mean, get angry with her, because it was we kind of knew that she was doing it not because she was impolite, but because she had problems in her past. She had demons she had to conquer. And eventually towards the end of her life, it got to a point we could actually pet her.
Yeah.
And she would and she didn't really know how to purr either. So the first time she started purring, it was really, really rusty and weird sounding.
Yeah, like an instrument that hasn't been used in ages.
Basically. Whereas it's you get other domestic cats or cats that who grow up in really nice homes. They have these really smooth purrs because it's an instrument they use all the time. Yeah. But yeah. We call her. We also used to call her Atomic Betty because there was a giant anaconda from Sydney Zoo, I think it is, or Taronga Zoo. Yeah, I think a giant anaconda in Taronga Zoo they called Atomic Betty. And they called her Atomic Betty because she had her ups and downs, and we laughed so much because it's Atomic Betty almost sounded she had exactly the same kind of demeanor and character as Bryce's cat, Betty. And sometimes when she'd walk into the lounge room, from the hallway, she would just lift her paw up and look around as getting ready to bat something, to punch something. Is there anything around here that I need to punch? No? Okay, I can keep going. It's the funniest thing. None of the other cats liked her. There was one time Mum has these cat sculptures. I guess they're they're fluffy. They kind of look like cats. If you look at them with a quick glance.
Oh yeah, those ones. I think you mentioned that. She took them to be her kits.
Yes, she took. Mum had this one as a mother cat and 3 kids. She took 3 kittens because every time she'd walk past us, she'd just see the mother, the mother sculpture, the mother figure, sitting there with the 3 kids. And I guess she thought that the mother was neglecting her because she never saw them feeding. And so she took the kids, decided she hated the mother cat, and basically rolled onto her belly in order to get the kids to feed. And she was licking them and everything else, and we're just oh my god, she must have been a mum at some point.
Yeah, it's come on kids, wake up, you can feed now.
Yeah, and it's that'd be totally something you'd read in Warriors. That'd be absolutely something you'd read in Warriors, where it's this cat is all quaint, what used to be a nursing queen. It's oh no, the kids, we have to save them.
Yeah, several of them are sort of like that. Some of them decide, as I said later on, they become career mums, sort of.
Yeah.
And so what they do later on is...
Isn't that really bad for the gene pool, though? Because at some point every cat will be related to one another.
Sometimes the career mums aren't so much that they keep having kids, but they just look after... They stay in the nursery... And instead of going on patrols and stuff,
they just stick around and...
Yeah, they help. They make sure the nursery stays clean, and they help all the new mothers when they're preparing to have kits, and they help the medicine cats out a bit sometimes with the delivery, and then they
Yeah.
help with the raising of the kits and everything, and keeping an eye on
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
A lot of
Okay.
them are warriors at one stage, but then they have their first litter of kits, and they're like, I'm going to stay here now. This is a good place.
Yeah, this is what I want to do forever now. Which
Yeah.
I mean, didn't that only happen in ThunderClan?
It's possible that it happened in some other clans.
That is more
The
like
first one who
never
kind
hear
of
about
does
them.
it in ThunderClan is sort of unique circumstances. You haven't. Actually, yeah, I read the book that you're up to, so yeah, you're probably just getting up to it with Daisy
Maybe. Oh yeah.
from the horse place. Yeah.
Yeah, Daisy sort of just came in from the horse place. She'd escaped and she'd ended up in ThunderClan sort of with her 3 kids.
Yeah, she's not the sort of cat who can fight or hunt.
Okay.
Like
So
there are the occasional mice in the barn, but they don't really hunt them. They're fed by the 2 legs. She says that to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, she becomes the first one. So as I said, the first one was sort of in unusual circumstances. So that's sort of why it became an option.
Yeah.
Because she found her place in the clan, basically helping to the other mums bring out their kids. Even when there's not any nursing queens in the nursery, like any other queens in the nursery getting ready to have kits or who have had kits, she just makes sure that it's kept warm and dry and it's ready for as soon as they need it, basically.
Okay, yeah.
And sometimes she'll do other things around the clan, like she'll, like within the camp, like sometimes she'll help out with the elders and stuff if there aren't any queens to help. But yeah, she's the first one to sort of do it, so it becomes a thing in ThunderClan because of that. But there are some other mums who were warriors originally, like later on.
Yeah.
And they sort of go, actually, I liked to do that. I'm going to keep doing this. And some of them, yes, they do pop out a litter of kittens every few moons, like every 6 moons. But... Or
like
7.
A supply of apprentices.
Yeah, 6 or 7 moons.
I mean,
you know.
when the clan is sort of being like when the clan is being threatened, like having like the clans, like or having cats that sort of threatening to destroy all the clans, sort of like every couple of months, is sort of like it makes sense.
Yeah, but at the same time, like their main role, even if they are popping out kittens quite regularly, is still like helping out all the other queens. It's like when you're a queen, you know in ThunderClan you're not going to be alone. There's going to be plenty of cats there to help you, even if you're the only nursing queen at that time.
Yeah, true. The what's the word I'm thinking of?
And it's like how even pregnant she-cats, they don't have to go to the nursery straight away, but the ones that decide that they want that sort of career, they kind of stay in the nursery all the time.
Yeah, because I think it's like Fireheart.
Don't go back to worry.
Firestar would be the kind of cat that would like sort of explore the idea of having career mums, because all the other cats are sort of like there's a very rigid social structure sort of that all like the other like clan bond cats sort of would follow, because that's all they know.
Yeah. And
so sort of in so far as Firestar sort of doing it, it's sort of like, oh well, he has the perspective of being a cat from outside the clan, like a leader from outside the clan. So
I think it's also because
sort of something, then
I think it's also because with Cinderpelt finding her place as a medicine cat, and then again with Brightheart when she was Lost Face.
Yeah.
Like she didn't even. Blue Star at that time was so out of it that she didn't even consider her being a warrior or anything after that. But Cloudtail basically showed Fireheart, we can find ways for even these cats to fit in. Like coming up with those special moves that would work for Brightheart and actually make her a formidable warrior.
Well,
to.
Cloud Tower sort of like we also have Cloud Tower to thank for that, but I think also
Yeah, but I think
Blue Star.
because of that sort of thing, like having those experiences with these other cats that had to find other ways to contribute to the plan or just a different way of doing things, that also made him more
an
open
extremely
to.
progressive clan as a result.
Yeah, it made him more open to the idea of having different roles and stuff as well.
Yeah, but in Blue Star's case, I think sort of she was so like out of it and so sort of like dismissive of the idea of Brightheart being a clan cat because
she wasn't dismissive of her being a clan cat, but she didn't even look at what she could do now. She just went, "Oh, you're broken."
Yeah, but also lost Brightheart's injuries was also a constant reminder of something that Tiger Star had done.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of like it was almost like a constant exterior reminder that her clan was being destroyed by this cat that she'd failed. I think the sort of like Blue Star's sort of biggest thing was that she felt as though she failed her clan and Tiger Star.
Well, I don't know that she felt she failed Tiger Star, but she failed her clan in recognizing who Tiger Star was. And also because it had been brought to her attention and she dismissed it as soon as Fireheart seemed to be stumbling onto the truth about her kids. But it's like, yeah, she knew what was going on, but she wouldn't accept it, and she feels like she failed her clan because of that.
But she was also of the generation that sort of felt that StarClan sort of had a lot more like control over these kinds of things. Like Yellowfang and Blue Star and like all these other cats, whenever something bad would happen, they would think that StarClan was punishing us or something. And of course, we find out much later on, StarClan's like, that's not really us.
Although she felt in part they were punishing her for trusting Tigerheart and possibly for appointing Fireheart late.
Yeah. But then sort of we find out sort of like later on StarClan just like because I mean it turns out StarClan is extremely forgiving.
Yeah. Sometimes,
yeah.
I think it depends who's looking at the discretion, what the discretion is, and how many warnings they might have been given about this particular discretion, if it's something that is clearly being led towards and stuff, as to, and again, yeah, the specific StarClan cats that might be looking at that issue as to what might happen.
Yeah.
And when you say the specific StarClan cats looking at that issue, that's how much the authors love this character and how much they want to make this a key part of the story as a whole, and how much they want everything to work out all the time for this character, or not so much all the time, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because they are StarClan. The authors are StarClan.
Yeah.
It's like in Yellowfang's case, yeah, that she was given multiple warnings by living cats and dead cats, and it's like, well,
you knew you say Yellowfang.
Yeah, it's like, well, you knew you shouldn't have been doing this. You shouldn't have been fucking around with a Tom when you were a medicine cat apprentice. And
she just kind of ignored all of that, and basically it was just like, yeah, well, my heart knows more than literally everybody else, which happens surprisingly often even in the real world.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of like you be there sort of saying like, my experiences are sort of like, or how I feel about something is like much more important and valid than what others are saying to me. Which makes a sort of like a lot of sense, because it's sort of like really sort of like I can only understand your own experiences and feelings more so than other people.
But yeah, in her case, she was given a lot of warnings, sort of thing.
Yeah. And
So
like, and
in
she
her
knew,
case, she's going to have like a lot of.
especially for the fact that she prided herself on sort of being like a great clan cat.
Hmm.
Like, oh, like I'm going to be the best clan cat. Sort of, I'm going to be the most loyal cat. It's like of all the Shadow Clan. And the very second is sort of like
I think
the very
pretty
second
much
that challenge,
all.
she's just like, nope.
I think pretty much all cats think that at least once.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like every kit plays at being leader. One day I'm going to be the leader of the clan because I'm the best cat. I'm always going to be the most loyal warrior, and I'm never going to back out of a fight. And
yeah, but it's sort of like the very second it's challenged, it's sort of like cats just go, no, this is wrong, blah blah blah. It's sort of like as though sort of like their experience that just goes sort of like, really? Yeah, sure, 100%. But yeah, it's like I always sort of found it sort of really strange. Sort of like Blue Star, for example, is sort of like Goosefeather's like, don't do this. Then again, in Goosefeather's case, Blue Star was like, well, every cat thought that Goosefeather was a crackpot, so anything he said is like, it didn't really make much sense.
although he basically said you're going to be deputy one day, in a way, and that you're going to be killed by the river. She was like, well, I don't think the water thing's right because I'm not from River Clan. I'm not going to go swimming.
Yeah,
but she did believe the deputy thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she knew exactly what Goosefeather was talking about when Goosefeather was going like, you can't let Thistleclaw be the deputy. It'll be really bad. Like, she agreed wholeheartedly with that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they'll never make you deputy if you have kids.
Basically. Yeah, so, but I mean, yeah, but then that's of course was a problem because without sex ed, it's sort of like, oh, if I share a bed with this cat, nothing's going to happen afterwards. It's sort of like so many cats are like so surprised when it's like, oh my god, I'm pregnant.
Yeah, she's like, it's just this one night, right? Like, cats have kids if they spend a lot of time together and do a whole lot of mutual grooming and sleep in the same nest multiple times. It's just this once, right?
Yeah. You ever notice it's sort of like in all those kinds of situations, it's usually the Tom that's sort of like part like it like in every like Oakhart was basically sort of like had almost convinced Blue Fur that it was totally fine to just spend one night. It's because I mean, if you think about it, like cats have got to talk about it like at least once. Because otherwise, it's sort of like, how would they know what to do?
Well, how did we know what to do as a species? I think it's a bit instinctual.
I mean, yeah, I suppose. Although then again, I can't even think about where he even got that information from.
I think I got it through school.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
sex ed.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I knew about it like since way before sex ed. For some reason, I just had this intuitive idea.
Well, some people run into discussions about it earlier on.
As in, like, if you're like a real little kid, there's two people talking about it, you don't even know what's.
No, discussions with friends and stuff.
Yeah.
So somebody got it from somebody who got it from somebody who got it from somebody. And some kids, although they're not supposed to, do find websites that they shouldn't be on.
Yeah. Yeah. Which sort of leads to, which then sort of leads to situations like, I think over in the States, it's sort of like a couple of states over there are sort of putting up this idea that that website that you'll need sort of like an ID sort of like for your internet activity. So then sort of like to connect your ID to your internet activity, so then you won't be able to access certain websites.
I mean, because a lot of those, it kind of makes sense because a lot of those websites, it just says, you should be this old.
And you just press a button that says, yes, I'm this old.
And which, comfortable accessing this site.
Yeah. And yeah, everybody just presses, yes, I'm this old. And I remember one site I've gone to, you know, for research purposes, that basically sort of was like, yes, I'm over 18. And in brackets it says, I know you're lying, but still, we got to say it.
So it was kind of admitting that they know people just click the button. Yeah. I'm guessing that particular site wasn't as bad as some of the ones that actually legitimately say that even though you can, again, just click the button.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually, like, it was pretty funny sort of seeing it. And I was over 18 at the time, but I'm just like, they know.
Yeah.
It was like, we know you. It's like, you're probably not, but our lawyers said we have to do this.
We have to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sort of like, imagine laws doing that. It's sort of like, did you do this? No. Okay, you're free to go.
Well, it's a lot easier when you can't see their face.
It is so much easier when you can't see their face.
But
at the same time, it's like, I can understand. I think like people online are sort of like talking about it, like, oh my god, it's sort of like it's an invasion of privacy. You know, sort of like that we need IDs for this. But it's like, I think it's pretty well sort of a definitive fact at this point that
if you have a computer, they know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have held a device, a smart device of any kind, they know plenty about you. A lot more than your age.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like if you have a smartphone and there is any chance that it has not been completely off when you are not using it at any time, you have already signed away the right to keep your age to yourself when accessing your devices at all.
Basically, yeah.
Because that phone has heard everything you said.
Yeah.
It's probably more to direct advertising towards you when using the apps on it, such as YouTube. But it has still heard everything you said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because, I mean, there's also sort of the other thing that, like, I know sort of, like, companies like Google say that, like, oh, like, we don't sort of let sort of, like, our data sort of fall into the hands of the government. But it's like, that's not true. And everybody knows it. So it's sort of like, what's the word I'm thinking of? So, yeah, I don't exactly know sort of how that is relevant to what you just said, but yeah. Sorry, what did you say just before? Is this, my brain is just sort of just thrown it out the window. I'm really
It's like
sorry.
it, basically, if you've had a smart device, which has, especially like a phone, that has been not completely off, at any time when you've been speaking, your right to privacy about your age and all that sort of stuff has gone out the window because it has heard everything you've said. It is mostly to direct advertising towards you
Yeah.
on apps on it, such as YouTube, but it has still heard every last thing you said.
Oh yeah.
There's probably a recording
Yeah.
of it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think sort of, I mean, they use sort of that data sort of for like so many things, not just for ad revenue.
I'm just saying that's one of the biggest reasons for it
Oh yeah.
listening to your conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Because Yeah. Because I think because they use it sort of like that for sort of for predominantly sort of like advertising um and predominantly sort of advertising AI what's these basically sort of recommended sort of what's these and everything. Like, you know, sort of since I visited like bought that one thing from Booktopia and Redbubble, I've been getting ads for it like all through YouTube.
Yeah, I can remember getting a few ads for it. I don't remember through
With it.
YouTube, but except Redbubble, I might have gotten a few ads on YouTube when I first used it, the first time.
Yeah.
I think I remember more getting emails.
Yeah.
I think my Booktopia is connected to an email that I basically use for a whole lot of sites like that. Redbubble, I accidentally used my own email, but that's because I set up an account so I could get things slightly cheaper.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I get emails from Redbubble, and whenever I have checked that junk site because there's something specific that I'm waiting for, because you know when I was trying to get having trouble with Funimation, my Funimation was connected to that particular email. So you know I have seen that there are a whole lot of Booktopia ones going through there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I speaking of weird emails, I get this one.
I think the main one you might get is here is another book that is by the same person that has just come out. That
or
you
you
might
get
like.
sort of like, or like, oh, we're having a sale right now.
Um,
like 20% off like thousands of books on store.
I'm not sure how often I've gotten sale ones. Certain ones come up on special at different times. But yeah, in terms of books, new books coming out that are also in the Warriors series, you'll probably get those.
Yeah.
Since it was Twilight.
Yeah. That's right, I have movies on here. How big is that? Ooh, 30 gigs.
Speaking of movies on devices, I'm thinking I should get one of those dongle attachments for my iPad Pro and like putting every single episode of My Little Pony that I've got on my Apple TV plus on like an external hard drive, yeah, because it's chewing up so much space on my iPad.
Oh yeah, it absolutely would.
Like it wasn't so bad when I was still missing season 6.
Yeah.
And half of season 7. I think season 7's the one which starts with Celestial Advice and all bottled up, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. When I was missing those, space was still decent. Now, not so much.
Yeah. No. I mean, how much internal storage does your iPad even have? Because
I don't know. I did remove Friendship Games, Legend of Everfree, I'm pretty sure. And
Well, yeah, they
the
take up so much
movie,
space.
the MLP movie, and I never
Sure.
and I never downloaded the new one. I have it. Like I have the G5 one
Yeah.
purchased. It's there. It's
I
gonna
would have
stay.
half expected you to sort of like to have those downloaded because
But
I remember you saying
well, the movie I
you've
do
watched the
have the
G5
DVD
movie like
copy.
100 times now.
The movie I do have a DVD copy, and usually I just watch it on Netflix.
Okay.
The not the G5 movie, the other movie.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, my iPad must have a ton of space.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you mean you've got sort of like over 100 episodes of MLP,
Yeah,
and
because
each
I
of those
got
episodes.
season 1 through 7, and then I've got season 9.
Yeah.
And then I still have 1 episode of Doctor Who and 1 episode of Star Trek Next Gen.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that was something different.
Right.
And I think A Brainy Life is also not downloaded at the moment.
Yeah. Ooh,
what
boy.
movies were you looking at that you had?
Oh, I've got oh boy. Oh God. Okay, what's happened there? Sorry, it's just it turns out for some reason the hinge is sort of like on my old laptop is broken sort of like on one side. I don't even know how this even happened.
Oh, that's fun. At least you're getting rid of it.
Well, yes. I mean,
it's like it's gonna be a little bit of a bother while you're transferring stuff over, but once finished.
It's just as I was opening it, just sort of had this like crunchy sound. I'm like, what on earth? Yeah,
that sounds like it happened right then.
It
could have just been general wear, like, eventually it wears out. Eventually it's going to break.
Yeah, there's like a screw there, and is it this side or the other side? No, it's definitely the other side. There's like a screw there, and I think the post must be broken. Let me see sort of if it's just tightening the screw that's the problem. Obviously replacing this laptop, but still, this is odd. But yeah, no, the movies that I've got are just a few that sort of somebody given me on they'd lent me their hard drive, and there's like some weird ones, like there's The Social Network, which is the Facebook movie.
Oh, I think
Wreck-It Ralph.
I think I've seen it once, but I don't know if I saw the end of it.
Sorry?
I think I saw that once, but I don't know if I actually saw the end of it.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, Wreck-It Ralph?
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph. There's Les Miserables.
I don't know that one.
It was a movie, like it was like a French movie. I mean, not a French movie. It's like a movie about let's see what's going on here. It's movie sort of about they were sort of based in like France.
Yeah.
And it starred Hugh Jackman and a couple others. It's not too bad as far as movies go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not into musicals, so it was an absolute pain to watch.
You watch MLP though. That's most episodes are a musical.
That's true. That is true, but at the same time, it's like that's a different kind of musical, so I can tolerate it. Plus,
you said you don't like musicals. It's a different kind of musical.
You if you watched Les Miserables, you would understand.
So does that mean like movies like Grease and Hairspray and stuff you never liked?
Well, see, like the thing that I like about MLP is the fact that sort of like you still have sort of like non-spoken, that you actually still have speaking roles, whereas the entirety of Les Miserables was just song after song after song after song after song. Like there wasn't sort of like any room. It's sort of like the
So
concept
it was
of
all interpreted through song,
basically the entire thing was
rather than
interpreted
the
through song.
song adding more to it or just reiterating what's already been said, which happens in some musicals.
Yeah.
Bit of both.
Yeah.
And in MLP, it's like there
The
is a
songs,
little bit
yeah,
of reiterating, but it's more expanding on it. But this is like everything is told through the song, so it's not just expanding on an idea that's already been presented. It is presenting the idea, expanding on it, reiterating it, and presenting the next one.
Yes, and the thing was 2.5 hours, so you've got sort of that whole sort of they say you've got basically all of that sort of within 2.5 hours. It was just it just drove me mad. I watched it.
I think
so many people saying it's a cultural masterpiece. It's like the most incredible movie I've ever seen. And like when I watched it, I'm like, it's like I can say I watched it, but that's as far as I've gone.
Yeah, I think I could appreciate the fact that they managed to do that, like they did.
I mean, Les Miserables was meant to be sort of like a musical theatre anyway, so it's like, so sort of it was kind of like it was already sort of like it was already a musical when it was first. But I was hoping that they would have just interpreted it as like a movie. Because then you've got others like Nightmare Before Christmas and whatnot. Like they're musicals as well, but they're sort of like they still have speaking roles.
Yeah, I think in the same way I like the intro of Lockwood and Co. being able to present the entire premise of that world in just the intro with the headlines.
Yeah.
I think I'd also appreciate Les, whatever it's called, from the fact that they told the entire story through music. Whether or not I'd enjoy it, I don't know. But I think that's probably why people say it's such a masterpiece, because they managed to tell the entire story through song without needing speaking roles. Well, through song and through visuals.
Yeah. Plus, those kinds of musicals are sort of like they're very much based on very much based on tragedy. They're sort of like I became a slave because I stole a loaf of bread, and my father has cancer, and sort of like it was just like every single thing sort of was just written was just interpreted. But see, like it was like the songs are very. I mean, the songs are quite good. Don't get me wrong. Like the songs are sort of like very well written, but at the same time, it's like I really was hoping sort of for there to be at least one or two speaking roles. See, sort of like with that one sort of like where we saw the intro to Lockwood and Co. That's sort of like that's tastefully done because they sort of do it through images and unspoken, which is sort of like a thing. I think they call that atmospheric storytelling. Where they sort of use like objects and sort of where they use things like objects and posters and things to tell a story, and like things like people like companies like Pixar sort of like are very, very good at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really been embraced by some people in the MLP fandom. Like, it's not just Forgalorga and Agro that have been doing it. There's, I think it's called Thunderstorm or something. There's another person who does those sort of things. They're very different to the actual show. And the characters are kind of look like they're in war gear and stuff. Although it's still set in happy, fun times, sunny Equestria.
Yes.
But yeah, like there's lots of there's others that I don't even know the names of that are doing the same sort of thing. Just occasional sound effects, maybe a background tune, and just images.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's
Because
a
my
very
favorite
popular
sort of
art style. I feel like in there's the French thing,
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables. I feel like that's more because it's something that's not done often.
Yeah.
Stories told by images with the occasional sound effects. That's done all the time, or just images with a background track. That's done
Yeah.
all the time, but a story that is told 100% through song and images. Like occasionally it's done in plays, like actual plays, but to do it in a movie format, it's something new, it's something different. It may
Yeah.
not be great, but they did it.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. It was just sort of like entirely not my style
Yeah.
of.
I'm just saying the reason people love it is because they managed to pull it off, basically.
Oh yeah. 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 Sort of like the reason, sort of why people sort of so enamored by that kind of thing was again because they had been able to pull it off.
And nobody else has done that really before that I know of in that format, or as far as I'm aware since.
Well, yeah. I mean, sort of, it is a pretty common sort of like, fairly common sort of way to portray sort of like.
Yeah, it's been done in other things, but it's usually done in plays. It's not done in movies. People have not done that with a movie format, and that's part of the thing. The fact that it was done in a movie format.
Yeah, yeah. The appeal sort of is the fact that sort of that they were able to sort of like interpret. But they tried it. So they tried it with things like Cats, and Cats was just sort of like such a bad concept. But they've and Hugh, of course.
Which is probably why the time Mum got it on Quick Flicks is probably the reason that instead of getting the movie, what they actually sent her was a recording of the play.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like the play sort of was extra. Like apparently the Cats play was actually like is a really good play. Hence why sort of they thought, oh, putting it like making a movie format of it, that has to be sort of a really good idea, which it wasn't.
Yeah, sometimes converting things to other media doesn't always work.
No, that is very true.
Although most of the time people work out how to do it, and it usually brings in a wider audience to the work itself as a whole.
Yeah, I mean that is true. That happens sometimes.
Other times it's fine not staying true to the story, but it's hard. It's awful. It's weird when it's not always awful, but it's weird when you don't stay true to the story, but you're clearly trying to.
Yeah.
And that's usually when you get this weird thing where there's two different fandoms for the same thing. It's like, no, this is the way it happened. No, this is the way it happened. Because one of them's read the books, one of them's seen the movie, one of them's seen the TV shows. And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
At least they don't have that problem in Equestria.
No, yeah, in Equestria, sort of like it's all sort of basically in Equestria, sort of. I mean, you do have sort of the anime and manga. That's a fun thing.
They have. I don't know that they have anime and manga. They have They have TV shows. Well, I don't know that they have TV shows. They have books and they have comics.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about MLP as in like the MLP media we have. I'm talking about in Equestria, as in within the context of their world. They don't have that issue. The closest they could come is a book converted to a comic and then somebody writing a song about it. That's the closest they can come to that problem.
Yeah, that's true.
And because, at least in the format of written word to song, I think it's going to be so different that people are going to notice the similarities, but at the same time, you're not going to tell the entire story through song. So it's like, it's a different enough medium that that's not going to happen no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So maybe with comic and book, possibly with song, but highly unlikely.
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about sort of like if ponies were to
redo another work in a different format, basically?
Oh yeah, yeah.
If they'd have that issue of multiple fandoms now evolving out of this one thing, because there are some that like this and some like that, because they were telling the exact same story, and they were clearly trying to stay true to the story, but something about the format just made it not work when they did that, and you just end up with two very different but clearly meant to be the same stories. And
well, the best thing I can think of would be sort of like a Daring Do play, sort of like to accompany the Daring Do books, but the Daring Do play sort of like not having AK Yearling being responsible for it.
Or at least like responsible for part of it. Like how in the human world she had to double check all the artifacts and approve them before they could use them in the movie.
Yeah.
And in that case, they were actually staying true to a particular book, or perhaps the entire series up to that point.
I think she might have done that sort of because of the experiences that Stephen King had. Like, I think the movie sort of that had sort of, because there was a movie called Pet Sematary which was released. Well, no, not Pet Sematary. There was another one that was released before then. That was essentially, it was essentially sort of like a director's interpretation of a book by Stephen King, but it was so laughably bad that every movie since Stephen King has worked closely with the director to make sure that the movies
true to what he's trying to portray.
Yeah, rather than sort of expecting a director to know what the hell that they're talking about.
It's like, once you've published something, it is no longer your opinion, and what you meant by it is no longer matters. But I feel like when adapting the work into something else, if possible, talk to the creator.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was more to do with the fact that the movie was just so laughably bad. That sort of Stephen King was like, nope, this is horrible. This is like the worst thing that I've ever seen.
You are not going to destroy all of my stories. So next time you try to do this, I am there.
Do it my way. Yeah, basically. So it means it's sort of like that. It's no longer even though you sort of might argue that it's even though you might argue that it's like, oh, sort of like it's not up to him sort of to decide sort of like what his work does. It's sort of up to whomever interprets it. It's sort of like in that case, like in that instance, I'd say yes, he does have a right, because it's like he'd written the story as a horror, and the writers essentially turned it into a comedy. Another good example of this is Stepford Wives. Stepford Wives is essentially sort of like a movie about these men sort of that essentially they killed their wives and replaced them with robots. And there was a modern take on that concept that had almost turned it into a comedy. And Mum and a lot of people hated the sort of that new interpretation because it was so bad, so bad and offensive to the original concept. Because essentially sort of what the movie was about was this guy sort of like who had experience in Disney animatronics essentially sort of replacing everybody's wives. And that was a really weird concept. Right. I swear to God, taking apart laptops is such a pain in the ass to do.
Trying to fix that hinge.
Basically, yeah. I can't even exactly remember which step is next. I know. I think that part there has to come out next. Okay. Yeah, that part comes out next. I remember sort of looking up sort of an instruction manual on how to do this. And, yeah, long story short, it's a pain to do. Because there are sort of like all like screws just everywhere, like all through this like thing that just. Oh yeah, okay. I see what happens. Yeah, so it's actually broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said there was a grating sound, so it sounded like something had either like broken off, like snapped, or something was at least had been worn down at least somewhat, so it's not going to fit perfectly anymore.
Yeah, which is kind of sucky because I was hoping to use this at least as a backup laptop, but I guess that's not going to happen anymore, is it? That's all right. I mean, I've taken out the hard drive and a couple other things, so it's like I can pretty well sort of just get rid of this laptop now and.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, at least you bought the new computer when you did, so you didn't have it break like before you got it.
That's true. That is true. Just trying to work out sort of where the hell this is sort of still connected to. There's got to be a screw somewhere that I'm missing. Yeah, this is so weird. Yeah. I mean, this laptop sort of like had done like it had basically done me very proudly, sort of like, sort of over the past few decades, over the past decade. It's just a shame, sort of that it's sort of running into problems. So there was some. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yep, I see. There are two more screws I'm missing. That sort of like it ran into. Because like essentially, aside from that hinge breaking, sort of like this laptop was totally fine. It's just sort of like it never had any problems.
Okay. I'm gonna quickly go to the loo. I will be back.
Okay, no problem.
Yep.
Yes, I'm still here.
Yes.
Yeah, just sort of, yeah, I can see sort of what happens. So basically, sort of like there's this metal plate that is responsible for holding the hinge of the screen onto the main plate. And it's completely and utterly broken. That's bad. That essentially means that sort of the case is fundamentally broken. Okay. Well, I suppose the next thing to do sort of would be to take this over to the phone repairer. Sorry, not the phone, like not to have it repaired, but to have it
dismantled
recycled.
for parts.
Yes. Well, not only just dismantled for parts, but also dismantled for parts, but also
recycle the other bits that can't be used.
Yeah. Yeah. Is I mean, like I said, sort of this thing sort of is basically sort of been that right there must be the BIOS chip. Yeah, no, this thing, you should see how tiny the speakers are in this thing. They are teensy things. No wonder sort of this, like the soundscape on this laptop is just always so bad. But I've taken out the hard drive.
The speakers on the new thing, they're actually kind of small, aren't they? Compared to what you're expecting for a gaming laptop?
Well, I mean, they're actually, I think I said sort of that they weren't as good as I was expecting, but they're actually, I mean, they're 1,000 times better than the speakers on this thing.
I think they were just in an awkward position because they were underneath it near the front.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you might be right.
Because I remember you like messing around with it, and you're like, "Yeah, I think we'll still be watching Netflix on yours, like even when we got it set up, sort of thing."
Yeah. I said sort of that we'd be watching Netflix on your system because sort of on your device because yours has quite a bit better sound. Even though my laptop is supposed to have Dolby Atmos, sort of, which is, you know, essentially sort of saying it has a really good really good sound system, but it's sort of like having the software having the software basically means it's bottlenecking in the hardware department.
Although it's also it's not just about having the equipment, but it's also where it's placed.
That's what she said. I'm sorry. It had to be said. With far too many euphemisms for equipment and things. Okay. This laptop can sort of now just sit here and I'll have to take that over to Better Electrical, along with all those batteries, because I have a whole bunch of batteries that need to be recycled as well.
That went with it at one stage or another?
Well, also just other batteries, like batteries that I've had generally. You know, this laptop also came with a second battery.
That's unusual.
Well, what happened was it was an interesting story. This laptop came with obviously one battery, you know, as most laptops do, and
So just contradicting what you just said.
Sorry?
So just contradicting what you just said. Here is my story.
Yeah, sort of like, oh, this laptop has only one battery. By the way, it had two batteries. Oh, it all started when it came with one battery. No, the story was that when I first got this laptop, it basically died within a month of having it. And so it's like, good quality laptop or not. I don't know. But essentially,
at this point, it would still be under warranty, so.
At this point, it would still be under warranty, so I sent it in to have it replaced, and to have it sort of done up, and I sent it in with its battery, as you do, because it's like, why would I send it without the battery? And what's the word I'm thinking of? When I sent it to, when I got it back, the battery wasn't there. And I'm like, dude, it had a battery there. And they're like, no, according to this issue form, there was no battery. And I'm like, dude, why would I send a laptop out without a battery? Out for warranty without its battery? Like, come on. And so Dick Smith's like, okay, so they told Acer about it, and Acer was like, oh, okay, we'll send a battery out. And so they did. They sent me my battery. And then suddenly, there must have been some, rounding error in my favor, because suddenly I get a call from Dick Smith saying, oh, did you get your laptop battery? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, no, they said, oh, your laptop battery came in. I'm like, I had already gotten my battery. What are you talking about? Like, but we have an Acer battery, a battery for your laptop here. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this information. They're like, well, do you want a new battery? I'm like, well, I might as well. So I ended up with two. So I essentially keep one charged, one discharged. So one charged.
So it sounds almost like they actually found your battery after putting in this call.
Yeah.
They found your battery in their store, and that was the one you got first, your actual battery, and then they're like, oh, we got a new one sent. Let's just call him anyway, because that's what we're meant to do. We'll just go along with it.
Yeah, so it's like they'd obviously just sort of were like, screw it, just send him his battery, or just send him a new battery.
Yeah.
And then they found the original.
And they're like, okay, we'll get this, and then they got the new one, and they're like, oh, whoops, forgot to cancel that. Okay, let's just call him. That's what we're meant to do. Yep. Just continue with the program.
Yeah, basically, somebody didn't want to get fired that day. But it's like, well, I ended up with two batteries, which was honestly really cool. But yeah, no, I will miss this old laptop. There's something about it. I guess it's because I've had it for so long. It's sort of there's a part of me that's it has a place in my heart, even if for half its life I almost never used it, because it was essentially sort of just, I started getting into smartphones, and smartphones became the thing I would use all the time.
Yeah, I got kind of disappointed that my old laptop was completely gone, because even though it wasn't the keyboard cover for it, I had a keyboard cover on it, I was taking care of it. I'd spent a bit of time choosing which stickers and where were going to go on that one, unlike this one, which you might have noticed is just covered in stickers over stickers in whatever random order. They're just all up the right way. That's the only thing that I checked. But yes, this was I'm going to have these specific stickers, and they're going to be slightly off center like this to give it a good feel. It's I can maybe add one or two, but I'll have to think very hard if I do put them on. And it's So I get not really what you're going through. That doesn't seem like the right words for this context, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because I guess again, sort of and I'd spent a lot of time sort of a couple of years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, sort of learning how to rebuild computers and going through the process of finding the right SSD to replace a hard drive, and replacing the CPU with a better one, doubling the RAM. I spent so much time just sort of researching computer parts, and eventually, like, I got really good, sort of like at the and like doing the thermal paste and
It's so cool
starting
that
it
you
up with
know
a
that
bit.
and you know coding stuff. Usually, when people either know the software or the hardware, you know both.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose but then like I learned sort of like I'd learned the software part sort of like just through MySpace, and
Yeah.
the hardware part I think was a lot easier, honestly, because
Well, some people are
essentially,
really good with like remembering things and functions and formulas, or at least finding them again. And other people are a lot more comfortable when they have to do something with their hand. It helps them remember and learn a lot better.
yeah, I think I'm more of a learning with my hands person, honestly.
Mm. That's
Sort of
why
like
that's why a lot of people are just one or the other.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm like doing sort of things with my mind. Sort of like I do sort of tend to learn a lot through that, but like a lot of things that I do with my hands, it's really strange that it's very difficult for me to explain those things because it's like knowing how to do them is just so intuitive.
Mm.
It's almost sort of like it's like an automatic thing. Like I can't exactly tell you how I knew how to like repair that table, or even make Zephyrina.
Mm.
It's just like it was almost just like this intuitive thing where it's like, oh, I know that I've got to go this way and do that and draw this up, and there are whole books on those subjects, and I didn't need those books at all. The information was just already there in my mind. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, babe, it's actually getting fairly late, and
Yeah.
I've got to wake up for work.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'll see you. I'll talk to you this afternoon.
Yeah, because it's now the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. See you, Bunny.
Good night, babe.
Love
I love
you.
you.
Thank you. Sleep well.
I love you so much.
See ya.